He might come as a...
You connected? Connected?
Yeah, bas, audio. منتظرات
ये कम कर देता हूँ.
ها؟ نعم. أجل
Bibi's home. I left my house. I was there before. How is that possible?
أجل ما شوك تبين
Hey, Marsha. कोई भी मत बोला.
ما تم يبان له ما صار أكيد
Usually I used to do it from 2019 now. I was sick. My sister, she was staying in the UK. So for last year, this year,
Yes.
I have no divorce with her.
Is that okay? Good? No, not yet. Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا وهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردنا الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخلوا الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسدا على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا ومنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلك منه النهار وإذا هم مسلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وأعد لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعموا من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يقسمون ولا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون فهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسكناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه شر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون ولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة وإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من شيء الذي جعل لكم وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من شجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون وليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون وسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله اشفع لنا عندها الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحة اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله اشفع لنا عندها الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله عندها الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاذم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا اشفع لنا عندها الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا اشفع لنا عندها الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عندها الله اشفع لنا عندها الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجحنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحا عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسقري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحان اشفع لنا يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهناها واستشفعناها وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيحان انتهى الله اشفع لنا يا وجيحان اشفع لنا عند الله حاجات يا سادتي وموهلي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوه لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاته من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل سورة الفاتحة.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. आबाद हुई कर्बो बला उजरा मदीना बर्बाद हुई मैं यूं हजरते ज़ैनब ने कहा पीट के सीना बर्बाद हुई मैं एक दिन था कि इस शेर की करती थी में शाही और आज तबाही
بے غسل پرا مور نبوت کا نگینا برباد ہوئی میں بھائی موئے بیٹے موئے زندہ میں پھنسے وارث نہیں کوئی عباس نہیں جیتے نہیں شاہ مدینہ برباد ہوئی میں یہ نیلا تماچوں کے میرے منہ پہ پڑے ہیں میں کس کو دکھاؤں نیزے کے تلے بیٹھ کے روتی ہے سکینہ برباد ہوئی میں قاسم نہیں اکبر نہیں عباس نہیں ہے عابد ہے تو بیمار یہ کیسا مرا مجھ پہ محرم کا مہینہ برباد ہوئی میں آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجرا مدینہ برباد ہوئی میں پر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم سورة المبارک الفاتحہ
Dr. Dungersi, respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Adam Allah ajurna wa ajurakum. Tonight's Surah Yasin has been sponsored for the Ithal Thawab of the marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Let us recite Surah Fatiha for all marhumeen. Bismillah. On Thursday, we will be having our Shab-e Jummah program starting at 8:15 p.m. with Sheikh Bilal. On Friday, Salatul Jummah will begin at 11:15 a.m. with Dua Nudba with Sheikh Bilal, as well as on Friday evening, 7 to 9 p.m., Navigating the Path to Adolescence, Bulugh lessons by Sheikh Bilal. You must be 12 years old to attend or older, and the fathers must attend with their son. The link has been sent on the newswire. Please join me in reciting the ayah of Amma Yujib 5 times for all those who are sick here and around the world. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustaraiza dha'u wa yakshifu su. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Please recite aloud salawat for Dr. Dungarsi. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، روحي وجسمي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء يا غريب ويا مظلوم كربلاء. ثم السلام عليكم يا أهل العزاء الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته مع الصلوات. ما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هنالك دعا زكريا قال ربي هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, these are verses from chapter 3, Surah Al-Imran, verse number 38, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the prayers, the request of Prophet Zakaria. The verses goes like this: it is then that Zakaria prayed to his Lord, and he said, my Lord, grant me from you a good offspring. Verily, you are the hearer of all prayers. Why and when did Nabi Zakaria recited and asked Allah's help at this particular moment? Briefly, this happened when he paid visit to his niece, that is Bibi Maryam. What happened was Maryam's mother and the wife of Nabi Zakaria were sisters. And Maryam's mother had kept a manta, Naziri, that Ya Allah, give me a son. And what that son I have, I will assign him to your services. Like you will serve you, will go and stay like a monk at those times. Serve you. And this is the manna that she had kept. Why? Because she had grown very old and she didn't have a child. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately responded to her prayers and said, yes, you will have a child. But this child will not a male child. It will be a female. Nonetheless, therefore, Hazrat Maryam was born. And ultimately, she ended up in the guidance of Hazrat Zakaria. Now, one day, Hazrat Zakaria pays her a visit because she's a niece. As he goes there, he says that she has got different types of fruits which were out of season. So Nabi Zakaria asks her, where did you get these fruits from? This is out of season. She says, Haza min fadli Rabbi. This is by the grace of Allah. That what Allah wishes, season or no season, if He wishes something, it will happen. Therefore, at that time, Nabi Zakaria he found himself in a position where he should also ask for something. Why? Because he was also very old. His wife was also old, he was very old, and they didn't have a child. It is at that time, Hunalika da Zakaria, at that time then, that Zakaria say this, Kala Rabbi Habli min ladunka zuriyatan tayyiba, asking for a child. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then responds that yes, you are going to have a son. And see, when Hazrat Zakaria asked for this child, in these verses at least, he does not say why he is asking for a child. Just says, give me a child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the reason. And therefore, when the verses go, when they say you are going to get a child, it will not just be an ordinary child. It will be a child which will have these qualities. And then the qualities are mentioned in the verses of the Quran. His piety, his knowledge, so on and so forth. Meaning Hazrat Zakaria had a particular reason, and that was not just a simple worldly reason that if I don't have a child. No, there was a reason behind it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala therefore provided him the child, Nabi Yahya, and he mentioned also the qualities of the child. And that it's going to be also a very, not an ordinary child. The day in which the child is going to be born, that will be a very, very raised, elevated date. Because of his birth, that day. That day became important because of the birth of Nabi Yahya. That day will become holy because of his. And the day in which he dies also is going to become a very, very important day. And the day in which he is going to be raised. So this is the prayers of Nabi Zakaria. When we read this, it also reminds us of another parent who also had many children. If you look at the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, several children. It's only for one particular child that he takes that courage to ask his brother, Akil, that find me a family which is known for its piety, its loyalty, its honesty, and above all, its courage, very courageous family. So that from that family, I want to marry, and that's what he said. But again, why did he want to get married? The same reason as Nabi Zakaria. There was a reason, there was a purpose. And here the purpose was he was looking for that child, a special one, after Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. These were the Imams. This child, not an Imam, but one who could serve the cause of Imamat and who would represent him at the time when it was very, very important for Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein to have somebody at their support. And therefore it is because of this Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam approaches his brother and says, find out. And because his brother was an expert on genealogy of the tribes, therefore he suggested the name of Fatima bint Hazam Kalabiya from the tribe of Bani Kilab. And therefore Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam married Fatima bint Hazam Calabria. And this lady came to be known as Ummul Baneen, the mother of sons. Very briefly, therefore, about this lady. First of all, we are told that at the time of Karbala, Hazrat Abbas was, say, 32 up to 35 years. Imam Hussein at that time was 57 years. So if you subtract that age of Hazrat Abbas, it means when Hazrat Abbas was born, Imam Hussein was in his 20s. Maybe 25, 23, 22, whatever. He was in his 20s. And therefore, Imam Hassan was slightly older than him. Which means, therefore, that Hazrat Fatima Kalabia was not married immediately after the passing away of Hazrat Bibi Fatima. And sometimes because, we say that when she went, the children were so young, and the children were not young. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were not young at that time. They were in their 20s. Nonetheless, the way she went into the house of Amirul Mu'mineen, the way she treated these children was very, very different. She treated them so well that we find that there are two scholars who talk about the character. I've just taken three different scholars who give us some information about the character of this personality, Bibi Fatima bint Hazm, and who is popularly known as Ummul Baneen. First and foremost, there is this Zainul Abidin Al-Amili actually. And he is mourned more by Shahid Thani. This is what he says about this lady. This is what she says. This is what he says. That he was a virtuous lady who devoted her life in the service of the family of the Prophet. That means as soon as she went into the house of Ahlul Bayt, she regarded this house as different. And therefore we'll see that when it is mentioned when her children, she had 4 children, Abbas, Abdullah, Jafar, and Uthman. So 4 children born from her. She always gave preference to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Why? Because she recognized their status. And therefore it is said that the house of the Prophet, and this is what again Shahid Thani says, he continues. He says the household of the Prophet considered her elite status. They considered that she had a special position in the house of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. And they honored her. And he continues and he says one of the ways in which they honored her was the family of Ahlul Bayt, all of them. On the days of Eid would make sure that they went to her and showed their respect to her on the day of Eid. Just think about the Imams of the time, the family of Ahlul Bayt, making it a point to visit her and to show their respect towards her. Why? Because of the status that she had acquired. Then there is another scholar. He talks about the achievement. This was not actually an ordinary lady. By the standards in which she lived, she was one of the most accomplished ladies of the time. And this is what Muhsin al-Amini says. Ummul Baneen was an eloquent poet from the noble and a very brave family. Family was noble, very, very famous, very, very, as I said, known for its loyalty towards Islam, known for its courage. And in that society, she grew up, and one of her skills she was a great poet. Therefore, Sayyid Muhammad Hussain Shahrudi, again one of the greatest scholars of his time, he is reported to have said, when I face troubles, I recite salawat 100 times for Abul Fadl Abbas's mother, Ummul Baneen, and use her as a means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all my problems are solved. That is the status that she has acquired in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the reason why these days there is this famous amal that they say it's amal of Ummul Baneen. Now, if you look at the old books, the traditions of du'as, and you will not find this amal in any of those books. However, this amal is based on the personal experiences of pious scholars of our times. That when they found themselves in difficulties, they used this amal. And it is very, very mujarrab. It's absolutely acceptable. That's what ulamas have said. So, and I know of a few people, personally I know them, that when they got into very, very severe difficulties, when they did this amal, they knew it by heart. This amal is made up of a few verses of the Quran. And immediately their problems were solved. So sometimes people, some people ask it, where is it? I don't see it in Mafatihul Jinan, this amal. I don't see it in any. So where did this amal come from? Somebody has concocted this. It's not a question of concoction. Everything you do not find in these du'as books. They are based on certain people's, scholars' experiences. And therefore these ulamas, a lot of them have mentioned that when you are in difficulties like this, ask for the help of Ummul Baneen to pray for you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know of at least 2 cases. And one of them was like this particular person got stuck. And it was not possible for that person to get out of that problem. It was a severe immigration problem. She got stuck. So a lady. And she, at that moment when nothing was working for her, she did this amal and immediately her problems were solved. So this is this particular personality that has got a very high status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this lady, not much is written about her, but what we do know, and that is something which all of us know, the influence of a mother in the upbringing of a child. There is a great relationship between this. Fathers are fathers, there's no doubt about that. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, somebody asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is the duties, what is like the rights of our parents on us? The Prophet mentioned your mother. The person asked again, your mother. The person asked again, then he said, your mother and your father. Does it mean that fathers have got nothing to do? No. It is that relationship that mothers have with children. And the way a child grows, a lot of that is because of the influence of the mother. A great scholar, Al-Ansari, when his mother passed away, he was sitting there and he was crying. So somebody asked his great personality, so you are crying? He says, yes. What I am today, he says, is because of her. It is her teaching that has made me what I am today. So the relationship of a mother in bringing up of children is very, very vital. Therefore, whenever we talk of Hazrat Abbas and whatever Hazrat Abbas was, remember that this is the influence mostly of his mother. The way he brought him up, the way he brought these other 3 children was that. Totally devoted to the causes of Ahlul Bayt. And therefore you will see that when, and this is mentioned, that when this Bashir or Bushr or whoever that was the messenger who after the events of Karbala, when he went to report about the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, and it said that when he saw Ummul Baneen was very old, carrying a child in her hands. And therefore it is said that when he went there and she asked about what happened to Imam Hussein. It is said, some scholars say that Bushr, thinking that telling her exactly what happened right at that point in time would have that influence on her, bad influence on her. So it is said that Bushr mentioned about his sons. He said Abdullah was martyred, and she said, how about my son Hussein? It's not the way it is presented with some of our people. They say that she asked what happened. He said, your son. He said, I'm not asking about my son. I'm asking about Hussein. That's not what it is. This is a mother, and she is a highly elevated, highly scholarly lady, and knows. She would not say, I don't want to know this. No. It's only she wanted to know what happened to Imam Hussein. Were his children, her children alive when Imam Hussein was martyred? That's why she asked when she is told Abdullah was martyred. He asked, how about Hussein? Then he mentions the man wants to prepare. Jafar was martyred. What about Hussein? Uthman was martyred. What about Hussein? Abbas also was martyred. Then she said, Abbas, then what happened? Yes, he says, yes. In her Marsiyas, which we'll read, she says, yes. So far as Abbas was alive, nothing would have happened to my Hussein. If my Hussein was martyred because my other children were not alive. So when we present such, we should do it with care. We should not present like, she didn't want to talk about her children. No, this is a mother. Not only she's a mother from the house of Ahlul Bayt. And she has a great respect for Imam Hussein. So much so, she loved Imam Hussein and cared for her, and so much so that it is said that once, Sheikh Abbas al-Qumi also mentions this, there is this particular person, a Sayyid, a pious one who goes for ziyarat of Imam Hussein many times. And one day he sees in his dreams Hazrat Fatima Zahra salawatullahi alayha. And she looks at him and she is not very happy with him. She says, oh my mother, and he's a Sayyid, why are you not happy with me? He says, ziyarat of my son. You're not going regularly for the ziyarat of my son. He says, I go to the ziyarat of Imam Hussein daily and many times. She says, I'm talking about my son Abbas. You're not doing the same justice that you are doing to my son Hussein. You're doing also to Abbas. See, their status is such that when Ummul Baneen has regarded the sons of Fatima, giving them that preference over her own children, this is what she earns. Hazrat Fatima Zahra salawatullahi alayha considered Abbas as his own son. This is that lady who was not present in Karbala. She spent a lot of her time with the children in the house. And when therefore it came to the time for Karbala, for Imam Hussein to go, it is said that this is the advice that she had given to her children, that you are going there and be careful. Be careful and be mindful that no problem, that no trouble reaches to my son Hussein in your presence. This is the reason you will see on the night of Ashur, on the eve of Ashur, when Shimr ibn Zul-Jawshan had come to Karbala, and when he had known the strength of Abbas ibn Ali and his brothers, He therefore wanted to bring about Abbas out from the camp of Imam Hussein. And this is what he did. He came out and he called out, "Where are my nephews?" Now, how were his nephews? Nephews in the sense that Shimr also somehow was related to her through the tribal arrangements. That way, he claimed Abbas to be his nephew. He took a pride in that, being Abbas what Abbas was. And therefore he called out, "Where is Abbas? Where are the children of my sister? Who are they? Abbas, Abdullah, Jafar, Uthman." Abbas ibn Ali did not want even to attend to him. Imam Hussein said, "Go. He's calling you. Go, listen what he wants from you." So it is said, Hazrat Abbas went forward and he offered him an assignment. "Come, anyone who is going to stay with Hussein is going to be killed. Come, I am giving you an asylum. You and your brothers came to us." And what did, this is the effect of the mother that had raised him. He turned to him and said, "What kind of amnesty it is for me and for the children of Fatima are going to be killed?" See, the relationship was such that Hazrat Abbas considered Hazrat Fatima to Zahra as his mother, then Ummul Baneen as his mother. The way Hasnain considered also Ummul Baneen as their mother. This was that relationship, this was that connection in the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And therefore you will see whatever Abbas was the product of his father and his mother. And this is what we always should know, that this lady, very few things have been written about her, but what is there tells us a lot about her. So, after the events of Karbala, when Bashir, as we mentioned, he comes, family of Ahlul Bayt come back from prison. And Imam Zainul Abidin calls this Bashir or Bushr, whatever his name was, and tells him that your father was a good person who used to make a lot of poetry. Can you also go and use your poetic knowledge to convey the martyrdom of my father and our arrival in Medina? Therefore he went, and this is what is recorded from him, that he saw this old lady carrying a child in her hands and standing there. And as he went there, he'd been reciting this, that, "O people of Medina, Medina is no more worth staying in." Why? Because Sayyid al-Shuhada is not going to come back. He has been martyred. And therefore she heard this. Therefore she called him. Bashir called, he was called there. And she asked him, "What news have you brought?" This is where it is said that Bashir, thinking that if she were to tell him directly about the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, that may have a negative effect on this old lady. Therefore, he mentioned first the children. And every time when a child was mentioned, she would say, "How about Hussein? Yes, you have mentioned Abdullah. How about Hussein, my son? Yes, you have mentioned Jafar. How about my son Hussein? How about Abbas you have mentioned? How about my Hussein? What happened to Hussein? Where was Abbas?" He said, "Mother, Abbas, so far as Abbas and his brothers were alive, no one would even point a finger at your son Hussein." Therefore she cried and she recited a Marsiya. And she established one system. And that was the system of recitation of Masail of Sayyid al-Shuhada in Kabristan. Today, when you go to Kabristan, when you read these Masail, sometimes we don't know what we are doing. But this is one of the traditions that she started. After the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, it is said, she would come out of her house, take the child of Hazrat Abbas, a young child, go to the Kabristan of Baqi, stand there or sit there and recite these Marsiyas. As we said, she had the poetic, she was very, very good in expressing her emotions in the form of poetry. And therefore she would go there and compose this Marsiya. Advice to those who read Marsiyas today. Look at these Marsiyas of Ahlul Bayt. Try to make your Marsiyas like this. Do not, madallah, sometimes say certain things which actually demean the character of Masumi. Read the way she read these Marsiyas. And this is what we are going to look at, inshallah, these Marsiyas, which she recited when she heard about the martyrdom of Karbala. Of course, she visited the family of the Prophet. She expressed her feelings and they consoled her. But the consolation was also shown in the way she went to the Qabristan. And it is said the way she recited these Marsiyas was such that even the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, like Marwan ibn Hakam, he narrates that these were so heart-tearing Marsiyas that she was reciting that I used to cry. And he said it, and this is recorded, he said it, there were times when even my horses would shed tears, listening to the Masail of Karbala recited through Marsiyas by this great personality. What were her Marsiyas? Briefly, this is what she said in her Marsiyah. I lament, she says, I lament, I cry. Why? Knowing that my brave lion was stricken by arrows and spears. This here refers to Imam Hussein and refers to Hazrat Abbas and all the other children. I lament, I cry, knowing that my lion, my brave lion, was stricken by arrows and spears. Then she says, Oh Abbas, if only you had a sword in your hand. Oh Abbas, if you had a sword in your hand, no oppressor would have approached you. That all this befell in the house of Ahlul Bayt, she's here. All the problems that came, all these oppressions that were done. Abbas, if you were alive, this would not have happened. And then she addresses those who are in Qabristan, those who are outside the Qabristan, those who are listening to her. She would say, oh people, do not call me Ummul Baneen anymore. They used to call her Ummul Baneen because of these 4 unique children that she had. Unique in character, in presentation, in every respect. That they would call her as the mother of these sons. She therefore said, oh people, do not call me Ummul Baneen anymore. Why not? For you you remind me, to bring back the memories of those lions who were devoted and who were killed mercilessly. Then she would address them. She would say, I am now in a state that my sons are no more at home. Think of this. This is a mother who had raised these 4 young children in her house. Abbas was 32. Other children were younger than that. Jafar, it says, when he's still on his teens. These are the boys whom she had raised with difficulties. She had gone through all the difficulties that Amirul Mu'mineen went through. She went all the difficulties that Imam Hassan went through. She saw all the difficulties that went before Imam Hussein was martyred. And all along she brought up these children. Now she says, now that I'm going back home, maybe she is looking at those places, those rooms, those places in the house where her children used to stay. And therefore he says, now I am in the state that I I am in the house and my children are not there. Thinking of the way when she used to come at home, her children would welcome her. Her children would take care of her. Now that she goes at home, she is alone. There is no one to take care of her. No Abbas, no Ja'far, no Abdullah. Then she says, oh, I had 4 falcons. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He uses a metaphor now of falcons, of birds, of beautiful birds. Ya Allah, he said, I had 4 falcons ate me. And then he says that they allied themselves with the dawn, with death. These were the falcons who ultimately gave themselves to death. How? He says their throats were slashed. This is a mother who now imagines what must have happened to her children. Those children that she had raised with difficulties. Ultimately, she gave them away willingly in the way of Allah, but at the same time, she mourns and she cries for her children. When the Prophet had lost his son, when he lost his son Ibrahim, when he was crying, Abdullah ibn Jahsh, one of the followers, one of the Sahabas, turns to him and says, Ya Rasulullah, you are the pillar of patience. How come today you are weeping? The Prophet turns to that person and tells him, I am carrying the heart of a father after all. When I lose a son, this affects me inside. This is what was going to happen at that time to Ummul Baneen. She was thinking of her children. Then she goes ahead and she says that not only were you killed, not only were you killed mercilessly, not only your throats were cut with swords and spears, but then she mentioned something else. And she says that your heads were separated from your body. And they were put on spears perpetually, and the bodies were thrown down, devoid of life. They separated your heads. They put that on spears, and they threw down your bodies on the ground. Then finally she says, this is a brittle truth. She says, this is the truth. This is what has happened. I can never come in terms with how my son's Abbas's hands could ever be cut away. My son was so brave. How did it happen that his hands were cut away? Somebody might have told her that your son Abbas, when he went to Furat, he did not go there to do jihad. He went there to do jihadun nafs, carry water for the starving family of the Prophet. His attention all along was on the khiyam of Ahlul Bayt. In his imagination, he would see Sakina standing at the tent with empty vessels in her hand, accompanied by children, hoping that the uncle who had always taken care of them would at this point go and bring water for them. Abbas's attention was towards the khayma. Therefore, Ummul Baneen, the enemies came on the side, and then they severed Abbas's heads.
ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين
انا للہ و انا الیہ راجعون. ماتم حسین.
آقا سلام لے لو، مولا سلام لے لو. آقا سلام لے لو، مولا سلام لے لو. چل کے ہوئے ہیں آنسو، آنکھوں کے جام لے لو. حسرت کی صبح لے لو، غربت کی شام لے لو. در صاحب عزا کا مولا سلام لے لو. ٹوٹے ہوئے دلوں کا مر کر سلام لے لو. آقا سلام لو، مولا سلام. آقا سلام لے لو، مولا سلام لے لو. چل کے ہوئے سو آنکھوں کے جام. شمرے لئی چلائی شمشیر کس گلے پر، زہرا کے دل پہ ظالم خنجر تیرا رواں ہے. اے درد دل سنبھلنا، یہ وقت امتحان ہے. آقا سلام لے لو، مولا سلام. آقا سلام لے لو، مولا سلام لے لو. چل کے ہوئے آنسو کھو کے عباس کے علم کی یاد آئے گی نشانی. پانی تو گر چکا ہے، ٹکڑے ہے غم سے سینہ. آنسو بہا رہا ہے مشکیزہ سکینہ. آقا سلام لے لو، سلام لے لو. آقا سلام لے لو، سلام لے لو. چل کے ہوئے آنسو کے جام لے لو. حسرت کی صبح لے لو، غربت کی شام لے لو. در صاحب عزا کا مولا سلام لے لو. ٹوٹے ہوئے دلوں کا مر کر سلام لے لو. کا سلام مولا سلام لے لو. آقا سلام لے لو، سلام لے لو. چل کے ہوئے آنسو آنکھوں کے جام. سورۃ المبارکۃ الفاتحہ.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ نبی اللہ. السلام علیکہ امیر المؤمنین علی بن ابی طالب. السلام علیکہ یا فاطمہ الزہرا سیدۃ نساء العالمین. السلام علیکہ یا حسن بن علی المجتبی. السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ یا حسین بن علی الشہید بکربلا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا ائمۃ المسلمین علی بن الحسین زین العابدین ومحمد بن علی الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي الجواد وعلي بن محمد الهادي وحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد. سورة الباركة الفاتحة.